Historically, whistleblowers who oppose corruption within federal agencies often faced increased scrutiny, retaliation, or targeting, especially if the exposure threatens powerful interests of large nationwide operations. This can be a Citizens Corps program, a sheriff association, InfraGard, and so on. The form and intensity of that targeting can vary widely. Common forms of retaliation or targeting include professional retaliation, demotions, firing, blacklisting, or denial for promotions. Legal pressure, investigations, lawsuits, or criminal charges, sometimes unrelated to whistleblowing itself, occur. Surveillance and intimidation, increased monitoring, harassment, or psychological pressure is commonly reported, along with smear campaigns discrediting the whistleblower through media leaks, character attacks, or false narratives. Isolation is common due to social and institutional mechanisms, especially if the whistleblower was a part of a tight knit agency. The target may be flagged by a city commissioner as a threat, leading to police partners, civic groups, families, even contractors retaliating against the target. And this typically happens because somebody on a federal level flags the target. Targets may be harassed in hotels, airports, on planes, is commonly reported, even in schools and in parking lots, stores, and there is documentation from targets all across the United States making reference to the FBI, CIA, and other interagency partners participating in this activity and getting paid off in the form of contracts. The Whistleblower Protection Act offers some legal safeguards, but enforcement is inconsistent and often extremely weak. Inspector generals typically are compromised and are slow moving. Sometimes the only shield is visibility, which may deter retaliation, but it also increases risk. If someone is considering exposing corruption, especially in a federal context, they should document everything with timestamps. So, if you do decide to whistleblow against any powerful clandestine group within our nation or any agency or department or contractor, prepare for extreme psychological warfare and targeting, which is often emotionally and spiritually draining. So, the targeting will typically include being flagged in neighborhoods as a registered sex offender when you're not one. You may be labeled as dangerous or crazy to your block watch captain, which informs other neighbors, and police may even encourage the targeting for years, in some cases decades, discreetly. Some of the strategies the FBI, CIA, and DoD and other interagency partners may utilize is to nudge the target to create unpredictable events. Strategies used may include a combination of social sanctions and economic sanctioning tactics. So you're slandered at work, you're pushed out of the community pretty much. You relocate and then you experience the same thing over again. Nudging refers to subtle changes in an environment or messaging that influences behavior without coercion. It's utilized in public health marketing and so on. But when applied to psychological warfare, surveillance, or targeting, nudging can become something far different than its objective, which is typically behavioral conditioning, since repeated acts designed to provoke emotional instability or paranoia can lead to rage. So, what the enemy may do is manipulate social media, flag you, and you may have weird encounters online with people that are social media specialists, which work for DoD, CIA, or FBI, that are retired, or powerful Israeli interest groups, which are trying to promote narrative control. The trigger stacking performed is based on layering stressors to push someone towards a breaking point. And it's unfortunately linked to violence. And we need to say no to violence, mass shootings, horrible things as such. So, recent cases have shown shooters with histories impacted by nudging typically have PTSD. They're typically veterans or marginalized people. So, factors for violence in the TI community typically include isolation and targeting. Sometimes the target will self report what they're experiencing or utilize journals, since police and federal agencies responsible for investigating typically ignore or rely on reports to protect interagency partners from being exposed. So this prevents a pattern or a practice. In turn, the targeted individual is sometimes harassed on a daily basis throughout the day. So the harassment goes unchecked, increasing the probability of extreme violence, which we need to pray against. And that's why I make these videos, because I'm against violence. I feel like I'm promoting counterterrorism awareness on a micro scale by making these videos. I'm not out here spending thousands of dollars for paid traffic. I could if I really wanted to. I make these videos so that way I leave a paper trail of my harassment, and also in support of TIs. So that way when I go overseas, if I have to seek political asylum, other TIs can say, hey, there was a guy that went through what I went through, or there was somebody that went through something, and then when they went online and typed up what they experienced, they may find my video or other videos from other TIs talking about the same thing. Another reason why some targets are brutally harassed is that when the target starts exposing what they're going through, now they have credibility. And since those which hold the keys to narrative control see that this person is gaining a little bit of influence, they'll work to crush that person's influence. So one thing you may want to do is to create little channels where you do not get too much visibility. Is every blue moon you may have somebody sit at a table across from you, and they may say, I want to sit at that specific table. They may wear the same shirt, have the same shoes, same hat. They may do some type of skit the exact moment you get up. Let me give you an example. Just a few days ago, I go to the Copper Memorial Library in Clermont, Florida. And a lady that I had seen next door, an older woman, was right behind me as I'm going into the library. She whistles one time really loud, and she walks back to her car. See, I park in the front deliberately because I have a car dash cam. So it records what's going on as I'm entering and exiting a place if I park right up front. And it shows her doing this right when she gets up to me and then going back to her car. When you see patterns like that, it's because the enemy is trying to get a reaction. Some of the strategies they may utilize is to get behind somebody and do some type of skit really loud, and then they'll get away. Their hope is that you will eventually attack somebody from all these different skits. So they try to annoy you and push you to the edge. It's not really, in my opinion, nudging, but it's a form of dark psychology. While it's been linked to mass shootings and violence, it has been conducted by the following. The Federal Bureau of, I should almost say instigations, investigations. Fusion centers have done this in the past, Citizens Corps programs, and even Sheriff Association partners. Not all do this, not all support this, but there are some groups within groups which do things outside of the law to provoke people to violence. And they do it deliberately, knowing the person is asking for help, knowing they have made videos, knowing they've gone to federal agencies. And then you have cops that are doing this, knowing the potential outcome, knowing without a shadow of a doubt that if this was to occur to them and their family, they could react. So you could be just eating a meal with your grandmother, and they could come in. It can be a contractor. It's not about public safety. It's not about national security. It's about provoking a person to react, disrespecting them until there's a serious incident where we have multiple casualties or some people being murdered. And I've seen this time and time again. Most cases involving targeted individuals never even make it to mainstream media channels, just a local TV station. And then when I look through my emails, I see this person was talking about being harassed by multiple neighbors and showing proof. And the media never even showed the proof. They never even knew. So these cases end up getting reported as isolated incidences. And there's a lot of racists doing this in communities like Jennifer McLegan. She experienced this from racists. She was brutally harassed. People would stand next to her daughter's room with a shotgun. Video cameras recorded it. So this is a very, very real activity. And unfortunately, it's a highly racist activity. It can be used as a form of eugenics, and it's based on psychological trauma. So the people doing this typically are highly racist, ex-military. And then you have contractors. They'll target anybody. And then when you look at their records, you'll see, oh, they're into helping people. They go to church, but then they're doing black ops with LGBT, transgender, and they're doing sick stuff on the side. Trust nobody, fellow TIs. Look at what happened to Charlie Kirk. Look at all the people that rejoiced when he died. These were school teachers. These were people from our most trusted sectors of society. And these will be the same types of people which will target you. Did you know that federal agencies, they'll typically go to city commissioners, and then the city commissioner decides who's targeted in a local area by police? And then you have sheriffs, and then you have public works, parks and recreation. Then you have youth preparedness groups. In some communities, you even have fire departments doing this. In Austin, Texas, I documented it multiple times upon arrival to places, and even where I ate. For some targets, the targeting can be so relentless that they're harassed in churches. The perpetrators may park next to the target. They may sit next to the target and do little things. Let's say you have your Bible and you're taking notes. They may just pretend like they're taking notes with their fingers and look at you and laugh every few minutes. They may do little things like throw a piece of trash nearby your foot. I always ignore it. I never say anything to these people. I'll just move and sit somewhere else. If they do something to try to trigger me, I don't react, I just walk away. I've been in this since 1996, and I've talked to members of Congress, foreign intelligence agencies, U.S. agencies, members of Congress, counterterrorism specialists, threat assessment personnel. I've even hired people which have done work where they've worked for like a federal agency doing threat assessments, and now they are court subject matter experts. And they're all telling me that the activities I've documented they can and will lead to violence and mass shootings. But what I didn't tell them was I omitted parts of the video so they wouldn't see which agency was doing it. Because I figured that could prevent them from giving a proper determination. And they're all saying that the activities that I'm exposing have been linked to violence. So there are some that are in this that are suicidal. There are some in this which are extremely sick. They typically don't carry weapons. You may notice a lot of them will have a bachelor's degree. They're into radical feminism, perversion, um, they'll use drugs. Some of them, they believe it's okay to mess with children. And I don't know if it's a religious thing, it's what it looks like. For some, they may have like two ponytails in front of their head or a little round hat. um, you may notice a lot of them have had high paying jobs within the government, Secret Service, CIA, FBI. And then you have a lot of these people, they leave the CIA, they leave the FBI, and they start their own private firms. And I've heard of horrific things happening to people by some of these contractors, which do unethical stuff for money. And you may notice a lot of them are elderly, a lot of them are middle aged. They have this persona that they're a good guy when they're really evil.